Now entering the squared circle pit, he is an internet influencer. He is a historian. He is Justin Whang. Oh, he's also the guitarist of Jinx. Let me not
Hey,
undersell that.
hey, what's going on, Rob? Thanks for having me.
Thanks
Yeah,
for coming on the show.
yeah. I don't do a lot of podcasts anymore, but this is such like a unique concept, like a unique crossing of different worlds I'm interested in that I'm like, all right, yeah, let me do this one. It's gonna be fun.
Awesome. Well, I'm very happy to hear that. And yeah, I
Yeah,
try to keep it fun. Obviously, the show is about the intersection between heavy metal and pro wrestling, and I feel like you fit that intersection to a T. So I thought
hell
you would be
yeah,
a perfect guest.
yeah, for
Uh,
sure.
and for those of you that don't know Justin, he has a amazing YouTube channel about talking about weird memes from the internet. It came from the internet, right? Am I
Yeah,
saying that?
Tales from the Internet. That's the name of the
Tales from the
story.
internet. Sorry.
Yeah, the series. Yeah, just like a lot of weird internet stuff. Like I have a video about like what actually happened to the one guy, one jar guy. I did one recently, a short video, about a guy who he thought he could cure his back pain by injecting his own sperm into his arm.
Hmm.
So that was like that's along the vein of what you're looking at with my channel.
And so let's just dive right into it. Which did you get into first? Was it heavy metal or pro wrestling?
Definitely wrestling. Yeah.
Awesome.
What yeah, like when I was born, like my mother was a wrestling fan. So I was born into a house that had VHS tapes that were older than me. So it
Amazing.
was yeah.
Do you remember your first wrestling memory?
Oh god, the first wrestling memory. It's so hard because it's like when you have like that stuff you're watching, like you have that moment as a child, I guess, where like your memory like becomes into existence and it's hard to draw the line. But I do remember it's actually a really dopey memory, but it was one of the Royal Rumbles. And I forget which one it was. It was one of the very early ones. And I just remember this one part that for some reason fascinated me. And I would watch it over and over again. And it was the part where I'm pretty sure it was a botch. And the two guys came out at the same time and they didn't know whose turn it actually was. And they did it. It seemed like a botch in retrospect because like they didn't really know what to do. It didn't seem like a planned angle or anything. I feel like Don Morocco might have been one of them. I don't remember who the other guy was at this point.
Okay, so this is
But
one
it
of
was
the
a
early ones,
yeah. It was,
like
but that
88 or
was a
89.
yeah. Like it might have been like the second or third one. I'm
Yeah.
sure if
All
someone watched this is gonna know immediately.
right. and,
Yeah.
and what was your first experience with heavy metal?
First experience with heavy metal. Um, I mean, I get honestly probably just maybe like some point in elementary school, one of my friends had Master of Puppets. So,
Oh
and that
wow,
was like my first exposure to it, I believe. Yeah.
nice. And did you? I know you're in Queens. Did you grow up in Queens?
Yeah. I grew up in Queens.
All right,
Yeah.
fellow New Yorker. Same here.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
I feel like we were very lucky and very spoiled as New Yorkers in terms of
Oh,
being
yeah.
wrestling fans. We would get
Absolutely.
WWE, every 6 weeks, and we were right in the thick of it for ECW. Were you on the
Dude, that's like
ECW
when
wave?
you said that, and immediately that's where my head went. The fucking Elks Lodge shows. Like there was
Yes.
nothing like the fucking Elks Lodge, like the real Elks Lodge. Not like I mean, no hate towards the current Elks Lodge, but it's not the Elks Lodge.
Okay, I'm glad you mentioned the Elks Lodge. I was there for two ECW shows. I was very lucky to go.
Yeah.
First of all, do you remember how you discovered ECW?
How the fuck? Honestly, I got into ECW pretty late. The first time I discovered ECW was that episode of Raw when like Sandman and a bunch of guys were just chilling at the fucking ringside, causing
Yeah.
trouble, and I was like, "Oh, what's this all about?" So I went to looking it up, and I was like, "Oh, this is like the coolest shit ever," and that's how
Uh,
I got into it.
That's awesome. Yeah, I discovered it a few months before, just channel flipping, and I found it, and I saw Raven. I've talked about this on the podcast before, but I saw Raven, who I remembered as like Scotty Flamingo in WCW, but I was like, wait a minute, he looks way
Oh yeah,
cooler here. And then it was like all the guys I remember from WWF and WCW, but much cooler. So I was like, I'm in.
yeah, just like being cool. Yeah, yeah, it was funny too. Like thinking about how like now I have like such a garbage sleep schedule. I'm like going to bed at like 5 in the morning some nights, and I think back to those days when the only way you could watch ECW was like staying up till like 2 in the morning watching MSG channel,
Exactly.
and it's like it was like a struggle to keep my fucking eyes open to watch that. And now it's like, oh, I'm just like this is normal to me now.
I have very similar memories of like going to bed at 2 a.m. and trying to stay up and watch it, like being in bed waiting for it to come on in my room, like keeping it
Yeah.
very
Oh my
low.
God. Yeah. And every once in a while you miss it, and it's just like the worst feeling ever because it's like you don't got the internet then, so like it exists, but you're not watching the whole episode of ECW the next night if you missed it.
Right, exactly. Yeah, like a one JPEG took 45 minutes to download. You're not
Yeah.
downloading a whole episode of ECW.
Yeah. Just like waiting an hour to download an whole episode of South Park on real player format. Yeah.
It is really funny though, because people tend to assume that the like internet wrestling fan didn't exist back then. Oh, it existed. It
Oh,
existed hardcore.
fucking AOL newsletter. Actually, all right. So this is like a good time for me to talk about like the first thing I did online ever, which I went to keyword WWF and like it was fucking the AOL days when you had fucking keywords. You got the Vince McMahon thing where he's like, "Welcome to keyword WWF on America Online." I go immediately to the chat room and get kicked out for calling the host a bitch, and that's like the first wrestling experience. But everything like there were so many things that like to think about it that were like located like just to like wrestling shit. Even like we're talking like 1996, 97. Like it's been around. Fucking there were so many like indie newsletters by just like dudes like you'd sign up in an AOL in the WWF chat room, like people promoting their newsletters and sign up for it, and then you're just getting like a million different people's fucking opinions right to your email.
Yeah, I remember there was this guy Sushi X. I don't know if you remember him.
Wait, was he the same Sushi X from EGM magazine? Because I remember that being a guy, but I don't know if they're the same guy.
I'm not sure. But a bunch of people would bring signs of his about him. And he had a newsletter. And I remember it was the first time I ever got a newsletter with spoilers for like Shotgun Saturday Night.
Oh,
and I remember I watched the Shotgun Saturday Night. I'm like, wait a minute, I know the results for this match. How is this possible? I was
That's so weird. Yeah.
it was such a wild time to go from like a mark to a smart mark. And I feel like the real culmination during that era was the Montreal screw job. Because I feel like if you were online about it, that was like the first like inside wrestling story that I think mainstream wrestling fans knew about. Because I feel like everyone
that was definitely like a coming to moment for like a good chunk of wrestling fans.
Yeah, and it is really interesting because I feel like wrestling, unlike any other sport and unlike any other form of media, maybe comic books, it seems like the backstage stuff is really what keeps me intrigued. Like it's more intriguing than what's going on in the ring sometimes.
Sometimes
gossip, especially back then.
Yeah, for sure. Like now I feel like even like, I mean, also like I feel like the past couple of years I've gotten like a lot more casual with my following of wrestling than I was in previous years. So that's part of it for me too. But I feel like even now, like I'm not as like, I feel like mostly like if I follow backstage stuff, it's just like, oh, like this and that person is going to get released, and they do get released. That's like that's not terribly exciting to me.
Right. Yeah, it's a lot less drama now.
Yeah, I mean, people are
on less drugs. Yeah, less cocaine backstage, so less acting out. Probably.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's probably like wrestlers now just want to like fucking chill in and like play some video games and whatnot. Which is like you'll hear like old heads sometimes like talk about like that, like that's a bad thing. And it's like, no, these guys are gonna have like much longer lives than a lot of their predecessors because of the differences in lifestyle.
Yeah, there was that Undertaker quote last year where he essentially called the locker room a bunch of pussies. He didn't say pussies, but he basically implied it. And I was like, bro, like half of your generations of wrestlers are dead. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Like, it was such a toxic culture.
I mean, I get where he's coming from, but it's like, no, I'd rather people be a little pussy and have like longer, healthier lives.
Yeah, exactly. So who were your guys growing up? Who was your stable?
Growing up, I mean, like from like that get-go, I was like a Hulk Hogan guy. Then I moved on to being a Warrior guy, and that was like when I'm talking about like I'm like a really little kid. And then like there were always like a few like random dudes that I like fucking like I would cling to. Like I really liked Bad News Brown. He was awesome. Like he was awesome. Like to me, like Bad News Brown was Stone Cold Steve Austin like 10 years before Stone Cold. Maybe like even longer. I'm not like 10 years before Stone Cold Steve Austin. Like that was like that he had like that kind of cool factor where it's like he didn't really fuck with like he didn't fuck with the heels or the faces. He was just his own dude doing his own thing.
Yeah, he was awesome. What about like during the NWO Attitude Era? Who were your guys?
Oh yeah, I mean then of course I was like a Stone Cold guy at that point. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
Um,
I was a big HBK guy, and everyone kind of made fun of me. I was like, no, he's the best.
yeah,
He's so good. He's so
I liked
he's so
HBK back
determined.
then too. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but like Stone Cold, of course. I mean, I feel like most people you either went with like Stone Cold or The Rock, and I was more on the Stone Cold side of things. Although one of the most fun like things to me of that era was I remember like fucking just like the shift of like the Rock like gradually becoming cool, and you're like, I think I came to me, I was like, it's such a stupid way too, because like I'm watching it every fucking week, but then I had which was like the terrible Nintendo 64 game,
No
Warzone,
mercy.
and
Oh,
No Mercy was awesome. I'm talking about the Acclaim ones. It was like No
oh,
Mercy,
oh.
not No Mercy. I mean Warzone and whatever the fuck. Like they sucked. But I remember playing as The Rock in those. I'm like, yo, I actually kind of fuck with The Rock now. Like it made me like think about it. Not that the game made me like him, but like playing as him in the game made me think about how much he had changed in that time. And I was like, oh yeah, I kind of fuck with The Rock now.
Yeah, I kind of had a similar thing. It was like his heel turn. I wasn't really into it at first when he turned on
Yeah.
Mankind, because I was also a big McFoley guy, because he was just the hardcore. He was like the ECW representation.
Yeah, exactly.
But like a little into that, like later on into that world title run, I was like, no, this guy is fucking hilarious.
Yeah,
How
like I don't understand like how even like a person like has that shift in personality. Like it's still like, even like having witnessed it unfold before our eyes, it's hard to fathom how a person can like transform like that.
Yeah, agree. And so I want to ask you, since you were around during the Attitude Era, which I think it's unfair. It's only called the Attitude Era because WWE won. I
Mhm.
feel like it's really the NWO era. Like NWO is what
Dude,
brought the mainstream
absolutely,
back
yeah.
to wrestling, and then WWE kind of capitalized on it. But I feel like, how would you compare the WWF versus WCW kind of fandom to modern day AEW versus WWE?
I will say like so, and you're 100% in like talking about how like the NWO really ran that era of shit. But like so like thinking in that regard, it's not really a one-to-one comparison, because thinking about it from like that respect, I think I was in middle school at the time when the NWO was like really like popping up. And it was like you would walk around fucking school, and I'm granted I'm not in fucking school anymore. I don't know if it's like this, but I assume it's not. But you walk around school and you had like there were like kids that were like half the fucking kids that watch wrestling had like NWO shit on all the fucking time, and you knew who like the NWO kids at your school were, and it was like you were a fucking part of it with them. It was like I don't think it's like that now. So like it doesn't have that same like, it hasn't penetrated the culture in that way yet.
I agree. I think also just because there's so many more ways for kids to distract themselves nowadays.
Oh
There
yeah.
was like the internet wasn't as prolific, streaming, video games, there was even less cable channels. So it was much easier for
Mhm.
them to pierce through. But like for me, it's more like it's so weird now on Twitter. And I mean, I know it's not real life, but I feel like back then as a wrestling fan, you kind of wanted to watch everything. Whereas now it's very divisive. It's like
It
either
is.
love WWE or you love AEW. You can't be into both.
Dude, you know what it is though? It's like that definitely is a Twitter thing though, because it's like the people I know in real life that's, I mean, I'll grant a lot of people I know in real life, including me, to be honest, like struggle to sit through a WWE show right now. But it's
That's
not
more
like,
WWE.
yeah, I know it's not like a fucking I hate WWE. I hate WWE and they can't fucking do anything right. Or like I don't see like WWE fans in real life that are like that shit on AEW the way that Twitter WWE fans shit on AEW. Like there's a lot of things like this that are just like a Twitter phenomenon that doesn't carry on into real life.
That's a fair point. And
Yeah.
I do agree. I feel like as a WWE fan, it's been a struggle to watch WWE
Yeah.
lately.
Like there's
And
been
not,
because like they have a lot of people that I think are cool, but then it's
yeah,
like I can't sit down and watch a whole show for like one or two guys, you know?
it's very weird because I feel like their roster is incredible. The
Yeah.
production is amazing, save for the unnecessary camera cuts, but it just all falls apart when it comes to the storytelling. Like the
Yeah, like
storytelling is brutal.
yeah, I'm not like compelled. Like there's no point where I can jump in and like feel compelled to watch the whole thing. But like every once in a while you can see like a sick match or something like that. But I'm just not sitting through that whole Falcon show. I've tried a few times the past couple of years.
So how about now? Who are your dudes now whose matches you always look forward to?
What I'm really fucking excited for, and I haven't like really followed New Japan in a long time, but I just saw that Shibata is coming back. Yes. And dude, oh my fucking god, dude! Like when I got into NJP Tub, when I got back into New Japan, like I was gonna say a few years ago, it's probably even longer than that. He was like the first guy that I saw that I was like, yo, like every match this guy is in is just a killer match, and he has matches with guys that like his matches with Ishii or Goto are just like all like among like my top fucking matches, and like that was like a big moment where I was like, oh, like if he's done, like I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to enjoy wrestling as much as I did with him not being in the picture. So to see him coming back, like that's a big one for me.
Yeah, I agree. I actually cried when he came out. And
hell yeah!
Like he was.
Yeah,
I'm not saying I was bawling, but like it was definitely like I was like, oh my god! Like I've never felt such emotion as with like the Shibata promos. Like his comeback story is so exciting, and that match he had with Zack Sabre a few weeks ago was so great.
Yeah, he fucking rules. He's like he's easily like at this point probably one of my all-time favorites.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I'm really excited about that. It's too soon to say he's like one of my guys now, but were you at the Long Island AEW show this past week?
Yeah.
Dude, like so like I said, like I kind of only like casually follow it. Like so I'll pop in, see a few things. So while like Hook has been a meme for like a while, but like I wasn't really super aware of that. So he just came out and did his shit, and I was like, yo, what the fuck? Like I was like, that guy was like immediately like, and then I didn't even realize he was Taz's son at first. And I looked it up and I was like, oh, this makes sense. Cause I really loved Taz back in the day. And like when these like dudes like doing like cool suplexes and shit. So I'm fully aboard with the Hook hype right now.
Yeah, I'm all like wrestling is one area where I'm all for the nepotism. Yes, bring everyone's kids in, have them do their parents' moves. I love it. I'm all about it. It always gets over with me. And it's really awesome.
And he's just got like that kind of like that like silent charisma where it's just like he's just you just like you look at the guy and you just like you know that he knows that he's the shit.
Yeah, I agree. And it's almost crazy to me how over he is. Like I saw on their merch site, he's the first person to outsell CM Punk shirts since CM Punk came back. And it's like that's crazy.
Yeah, it's nuts. And it's like his first fucking match. Like how the fuck? Like, how the fuck is that possible?
Yeah.
I mean, granted, like Fuego did a great fucking job, like making him look like $1 million, but still.
Yeah, but he has the just natural presence and charisma, and he's over, man. The whole crowd was just chanting "Hook, Hook, Hook." You know?
Yeah, like dude, like I was with like I feel like the friends I with weren't like super familiar with him either, but like even they like immediately were like, "Yo, what the fuck is this?"
Yeah, and that's the thing about AEW too. I kind of feel like if I want to get a friend of mine who doesn't have any frame of reference as to what pro wrestling is, it feels to me like it'd be much easier to get them into AEW than it would WWE.
Oh yeah,
WWE, like 100%. Lately, yeah, they just have so much shenanigans and like nonsensical storytelling that it would immediately be hard for a new viewer to invest themselves in it.
Yeah. Thinking back to that too, MJF as well, like that fucking the promo he had with CM Punk a few weeks ago, like that shit was. I was watching that in the car with my friends on the way to go there to get hyped up for the show. It was
that's great,
killer. So although granted, like we're out there in Long Island and it's like I'm not from Long Island. People are chanting 516 and shit. I'm like, all right, I don't know about all that.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like when CM Punk was shitting on Long Islanders, I was like, yeah, he's right. It is a shithole.
Yeah, it's like, I like MJF, but yeah, it sucks.
I don't
Queens is way better.
So let's talk about music for a little bit. In the Attitude Era, WWE, the WWF at the time, and WCW absolutely got me into a ton of hard rock and heavy metal. I like to say that wrestling is how I got into heavy metal. How about yourself?
Honestly, like I love to like walk around and like listen to wrestling music, but I feel like most of the ones that I find myself listening to now, at least on the WWF side, it'll be like those quirky 80s songs. Like I fucking love the Fabulous Rougeau Brothers theme.
That was the first one that came to my head. That's the best
I
one.
love it. Fucking All American Boys. Fucking Dusty Rhodes' theme, Common Man Boogie. But yeah, All American Boys is a fucking banger. Like that
All
is
American Boys is an absolute jam, and like that synth solo, like
Mhm.
and the All American, like the background,
yeah, like the
melody.
backing track. Like they put fucking work into that song.
Jimmy Hart is a genius. I feel he's very underrated as a
absolutely. Yeah, that was a Jimmy Hart track, right? Yeah,
yeah. And even in WCW, he had some jams. He did that like Steiner's. This is the story of two brothers.
Yo, that one slaps too.
Yeah.
That one. He did what was another the fucking the American Male song. It's not a good song per se, but it's a fucking memorable song.
Yeah.
I don't know whose idea was it to like make them sound like Ninja Turtles or whatever the fuck that voice is, but it works.
I wonder if there's a mashup of those two songs. I think
yeah, because like there definitely is like some like crossover there where you could make it work.
Yeah, I think you're right. Maybe someone talented listening could make that happen. But yeah, even like for me, the sound alikes, like GDP came out to essentially Smells Like Teen Spirit. That's how I checked out Nirvana. I was like, oh no
good. Shit. Yeah. That's such an interesting pathway to Nirvana from the fake DDP song. You might be the only person I've ever heard say that.
I think so. That was my path to rock music. That and just seeing Marilyn Manson on MTV were the two reasons that I got into rock, because I was like, oh, I'm different than all my friends who like, boy bands or whatever.
That's might be like one of the most interesting trajectories to rock music is through wrestling, although it makes sense. Though honestly, that's like something about ECW too. Like ECW was fucking awesome, but a big part of that was the music.
Yeah,
it's absolutely. Like I can't sit through those. I can sit through them, but like how the network changed all the copyrighted music and stuff. I had to find that version somebody made where they took like the HD versions from the network, but then edited it all to have the proper music in it.
Yeah, I'm blown away that somebody took the time to do this, but you're absolutely correct. Every ECW pay-per-view has been overdubbed. And it's available. Like if you Google it, you can find it. It's like a Google Drive. I have it bookmarked somewhere, but yeah, that's so fantastic. And I believe a ton of the hardcore TVs as well. And I agree with you. Like ECW got me into so many bands. It was the first time I heard White Zombie, Nine Inch Nails, Offspring. I already knew, but like,
yeah, there's definitely a few bands I found them like Prong. I didn't know until Just Incredible was using them.
Yes.
Killing Joke. I didn't know. But then they had Skull Von Crush used Killing Joke, and he was also in those fucking they were also in those like VHS promos they had.
Right, yeah. And it was just so good. It was so cool, and not something anybody can really ever do again, just because.
Oh yeah, it's very illegal.
Yeah, very illegal and knowingly so. I actually just interviewed Paul Heyman, and I asked him about it, and his answer was essentially like, "Oh, he would have just wasted too much money for them to sue us, and we had nothing to be sued for, so we just got away with it most of the time."
Yeah, that fucking rules.
I love it. That's the attitude. So you mentioned you got into Metallica in grade school. When were you like a full-blown metalhead?
God, honestly, so like there were always like a few metal bands that I liked, but then I feel like what really like pushed me over into being like, this is like the main thing I listened to was honestly Slipknot. It was maybe like I got that self-titled album, and then like it was kind of like a gateway for me to be listening to, like I was listening to all the other new metal bands, and then that led me to like Slayer and Cannibal Corpse and shit like that. Although honestly, I found Cannibal Corpse because I thought their t-shirt was cool, and I was like, let me listen to this band actually, and I was like, oh, this actually fucking rules.
I feel like the only band other than Cannibal Corpse that got more fans through the t-shirts than Cannibal Corpse would be Iron Maiden.
Yeah, probably that's another t-shirt band.
Yeah, for sure. And new metal, what a fun little period when not only was there fun music coming out, but the mainstream actually paid attention to it. Right? Like it was CRL.
Like it's so weird to think about, but a lot of those bands I learned about from MTV. I found System of a Down from MTV, and fucking not Slipknot from MTV. And I found out about Slipknot from MP3.com. Like they did a live stream with Cold Chamber, and I'm like watching that blurry on my 56K modem, and I'm like, oh, this is pretty cool.
It is wild to think like there was a time where Korn and like Limp Bizkit were being played, and even System of a Down played alongside Britney Spears and like Christina Aguilera on the same show.
Yeah, it's fucking nuts to think that was a thing that happened.
Yeah, and I mean, and really, I feel like it's almost like the last generation of bands to have that like mainstream appeal. I feel like bands today, it's so much harder. And really, I don't see too many bands that have broken through the mainstream since a band like Slipknot. Like the only other band I can think of that came out after them would be like Avenged Sevenfold, and to some extent now Ghost, but I don't think they're anywhere near the level yet.
Yeah, like Ghost is kind of in their own lane too. They're kind of like, I'll like if I mention Ghost, you'll always get like those people who are like want to debate whether or not they're even a metal band, stuff, which is like that's a conversation I'm not interested in having really. But yeah, like Ghost is definitely like, yeah, like they definitely like got really fucking big. I don't know how I don't know the numbers to compare them for sure, but
I mean, they are playing arenas, but they're not selling out arenas. That's
gotcha. Yeah,
like I saw them at like the big arena here in New York, and there were people there, but it was maybe half full, you know?
Gotcha. Yeah.
So they're trying. And let's talk about your band, Jynx. So
yeah,
one thing I've been saying the last few years, and I don't think it's a controversial opinion, is like nu metal is back. There's like a nu metal revival. It's no longer a dirty word. I never understood why it was shamed. But I feel
I understand why, but
why?
Why? You know what? Because it was one of those things where it was a genre of music that was very like, what's the correct word for this? Like the opposite of ironic. It was a very earnest metal genre. And I feel like as a whole, as a culture, we've kind of moved away from that, and everything has to have like this kind of like self-aware layer of irony to be cool. And nu metal is very much not that.
I don't know. I feel like Limp Bizkit's very ironic. They're still like their last album.
I feel like now they are.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing. That's a part of the thing too. I feel like is driving the nu metal return is like there's like this like layer of irony with it that people have become comfortable with.
Yeah. I mean, even writing about it, I feel like once the new wave of American heavy metal hit and like metalcore, like Lamb of God, Killswitch, those bands, I feel like you like metal, it was like passe to talk about nu metal, and then there was like two other eras that came, and only like 4 or 5 years ago I think Korn is actually a big part of it, because Korn stuck around. Korn never got that, and then they kind of hit this like legacy act level where people were like, like actually nu metal is fine. Like we accept it again. Like I even seeing like comments on stories that I would write, there would be far less blowback than like 5 years prior. It's weird.
See, as someone who writes about metal, you probably have a unique perspective on that, because I feel like you're like anything you write about bands like that, you're gonna see the blowback for like talking about a nu metal band versus like any other kind of band. So like it's interesting that you've noticed the shift. Yeah,
I think there's been a few things. Like Five Finger Death Punch is a big one, because I feel like they're kind of they're basically a nu metal band. Like I'm sure they don't describe themselves as that.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like a lot of them try not to, no matter what. Like I saw an interview or some shit where I've seen both Korn and Slipknot deny being nu metal bands, which I guess the argument maybe could be made for modern Slipknot, but I think it's nu metal. I think Korn and Slipknot. Yeah,
exactly. Like they're them and Limp Bizkit and like maybe Sting are like the big four or whatever. Like I guess there'd have to be some. See, I think there's an argument that System of a Down isn't nu metal, because they always seem completely different than all those other bands.
That's one that's very contentious too, because I had made some kind of comments like that. I forgot what the exact tweet was, but I had mentioned System of a Down. It was something about them being a nu metal band, and I got a lot of shit for calling them a nu metal band.
Yeah, I think it's just like the era, like all the bands that came out in that era were just kind of lumped in with it. And it's not, I don't know. System of a, I wouldn't like as a System of a Down fan, I wouldn't be offended if you call them new metal.
Yeah.
So I don't think I don't think it's weird. But yeah, so as I was saying, like when Five Finger Death Punch came around, they were kind of unapologetically doing the new metal radio sound.
Mhm.
And I noticed a shift because when I first started writing about them, I would kind of write about them mockingly. And like, oh God, here's a new Five Finger Death Punch song to torture your eardrum, something like that. And I would keep writing that. And then I would notice in the comments as time progressed and the band got more popular, I realized like the people commenting were like, why are you insulting my favorite band? And it's like, oh, the only people that are reading this are Five Finger Death Punch fans. So why am I dissing that? Why am I spitting in their face when they're coming to my website to get information about their favorite metal band, who I might not necessarily like? Like it's I have to provide a service to them. So I kind of like cut down on my Five Finger Death Punch rage. And I feel like when that happened is also kind of when people started like, I think also it's a generational thing because it's this new generation of metal fans who weren't around for the new wave of American heavy metal and metalcore and didn't know about that stigma about new metal.
That's true, yeah.
And so they have no qualms about listening to Limp Bizkit or even an Edema or something like that, like those second or third rate bands.
I've definitely noticed that like there's definitely like a younger crop of kids who are like getting into new metal shit, like finding the old bands and stuff, and they're totally isolated from that stigma that used to exist around it, because like that was just like that just wasn't a part of their life at any point. They were born after all that.
Yeah. And so let's talk about your band Jynx. How long have you guys been around, and like when did you conceptualize the band?
So we've been around for about, I want to say about 5 years. So I wasn't the original guitar player in the band. Like they had recorded the first EP, but then before the band actually released anything, they had a falling out with him, and that's when I came in. And then I think the vision for it was always to kind of like incorporate that kind of a kind of like have like the new metal sound, but not just be like a straight up like fucking we're gonna play how shit sounded fucking 15 years ago. We're gonna incorporate those elements and do our own thing with them. And I think as the band has progressed, we've gotten a lot better with that too. Like the way I would describe it, it would be like if you had a new metal band, but like you have like more of like the hip hop elements to get put into it are like kind of like a more modern sound of hip hop as opposed to like that. Like that's the best way that I could put it.
It's just metal with groove, which is nothing. There's nothing wrong with that. Everyone, you need a little groove in your songs.
Yeah. There was what's funny is to think about it too. Like there's this one song that we put out, All in Caskets. It was a song like it's the song we have where it starts off like it's got like this very like thrashy kind of intro, and then it just like stops dead and goes into a hip hop part. And I was like listening back to it, I'm like, man, this shit is so fucking jarring, but it also like kind of like makes a statement about like what the band is. So I think at first like people like hated that fucking song. I mean, some people did, some people fucked with it, but then it's like as it went on, I feel like, and we put this out like 2 years ago, maybe I want to say. And as time progressed, I feel like people got it more. So
yeah, I think so. And I think there's less closed-mindedness to listen to that kind of music, whereas before,
absolutely,
no one would. And so the reason I mentioned that is you released a single not too long ago called Heat Wave 98.
Oh yeah,
which is arguably the best ECW pay-per-view.
Oh, it's one of, if not the best one.
And it has my favorite ECW match of all time, which is Sabu and Rob Van Dam versus Jensei Suyazaki. And
I was hoping you were going to say that, because that's definitely my favorite from that pay-per-view.
That's one of those matches where my friends come to me like, show me a crazy wrestling match. It's like one of the first ones I think of, because it's just bonkers. It's so insane.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that one. So it's funny, like I have like a notepad full of like song ideas that I think would be like cool song ideas, and that was at the top of the one. I don't know how that came to me. I was just like, I guess I was thinking about Heatwave 98 one night, and I was like, this would be like a cool like song title. But then like our singer, he writes most of the lyrics, so I was just like, I gave him that as a working title, and I just showed him like the Dudley Boys promo from that pay-per-view. And then he like the song like lyrics have actually like nothing to do with that. It wound up being like I think the song lyrics wound up being like about kind of like some altercation he had with somebody, but it has that same kind of energy. So it kind of it transferred over. I'm happy with how that one turned out.
Yeah, and maybe you got a few kids to go and watch Heatwave 98.
I fucking hope so.
And get into old ECW. So that's
actually no, I believe I actually did have someone tell me that they did that. So that's, you know what? No, I remember what happened now. Like because we named that song Heatwave 98, some people started to get actual Heatwave 98 shit in their recommendations after watching the YouTube video. So like it absolutely did lead to that.
That's great. The algorithm works.
Yeah, 100%.
Cool. And I saw that now you're kind of working as a brand ambassador for Tommy N's clothing line. Which I think is really cool.
Yeah, that was cool. So I guess like he hit me up one day, like a while ago now. I've known him for a little bit. He hit me up because he was just a fan of the YouTube channel. Like he watches a lot of YouTube content. So, and we just got to talking and we were talking about like the brand and stuff like that. And then one weekend he was like, yo, I'm doing a photo shoot for like the next drop of stuff. You want to come through? So I was like, hell yeah, this is gonna be fun. So I flew down there. Got a couple of friends. Rusty Cage came out too. And we just did a shoot for the brand and it was sick.
That's really cool. Yeah. The clothing line is called Black Mass. So that must have been kind of trippy. Yeah. Like you know, a guy that you follow hits you up like, hey, I'm a fan of yours.
Yeah, that will like never not be weird to me. Like it happens sometimes, but I'm like, no, you can't be a fan of mine because I'm a fan of yours. So that's like
that's cool, man.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. Well, it's been really, really fun talking to you about wrestling, about metal. And I as soon as I saw that Heatwave song title, I was like, I gotta have Justin on the show.
Yeah, I saw when you shared it and it was like, oh shit, he like definitely like, that's one of those things to you too where it's like a lot of people are, who like you gotta have like the crossover of knowledge to like really get it. I saw you did. I'm like, yeah, this guy, he knows for sure.
It is really amazing to me, like how much wrestling information has been stored in my brain. Like I can't remember important details, but I will tell you the ECW Heatwave 98 lineup, like no problem.
Yeah.
And it's, but also even crazier to me is how many other people of our age, like I'm 38, I'm a few years older than you, I think, but
yeah, I'm close.
Same gen. Yeah. Same gen. And like people of our age, like we have all this knowledge about all this pro wrestling that even if we don't watch it anymore, like it's still in there.
Yeah, because like this was just like the stuff that permeated the culture at the time that we were just like, you know, at the time where our brains were susceptible to new knowledge.
Exactly. Yeah, that's true. That's true. It was that in South Park, essentially.
Yeah, pretty much.
Awesome, Justin. Well, do you have any plugs? Do you want to let people know where they could find you? Before I'm
on YouTube. The channel is Wang, Tales from the Internet. And
awesome.
The band is Jinx, Jynx.
Yes, absolutely. Check out Jinx. Check out Justin's YouTube channel for fun videos. And thanks, Justin. Hopefully we could see each other at a wrestling show soon.
Oh yeah. Thanks for having me.